there. Right over there.
Say there ain't anything over there.
Well, there was.
He was.
Right over there.
He was.
That's where we saw him last.
In this video, we dissect the creepiest pieces of trail cam footage to appear in recent years. These are not blurry nighttime silhouettes or a distant figure behind the trees. These are large footprints of bipedal creatures, sightings of them climbing trees with a grace that just seems to defy logic. We'll walk through these exact moments, listen to people who experienced this firsthand and examine the sizes. And finally, ask the question we all want to ask. Is that Bigfoot or something even more disturbing moving in the wilderness?
Actually, a really nice day in the mountains today. A little bit cooler than normal. Cloud cover, no sunshine. I love it. So we're gonna get out into a new area that I haven't been into before and throw out a couple more game cameras, trail cams. This is an area that I want to maybe do a bit of hunting this fall, so I want to throw some cameras out and just see what's around in here.
Some wildlife encounters aren't caught on camera, but they don't need to be. They're felt in the chest, in the still air of the mountains, in the extreme fear that something massive and intelligent just shared the same space as you. For Darren, from outlaw country, it started as a peaceful day in the Wyoming backcountry until everything took a turn for the worse. While scouting a new ridge for setting up game cameras, Darren suddenly pauses as he is disturbed by a sound, low, guttural, and close, that breaks the calm. He tries to keep it together.
I don't even know that it's a bear, but there was something there. Could have been an elk.
And we see panic kicking in. He backs away slowly, unsure of what he just heard. Was it a bear? Deer? Something else? He holds his bear spray but admits he's spooked. And this isn't a random man in the woods. This is a man who knows the terrain. The uncertainty in his voice says it all.
It was running slightly uphill this time, just as fast, so we got a pretty good look at it. I had the binoculars now and Sarah was just watching. And then I heard her say, there's another one at the top of the ridge.
Moving forward, he shares a story from viewer Rhett Callahan of an encounter in 1997 during a multi-day hike with his wife Sarah in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. While packing up camp, they notice what looks like a rock, until it moves. Rhett tries seeing in with binoculars and realizes it's a massive being with arms resting on its knees, squatting, watching them.
He goes, I'm in my bed and the van is shaking back and forth, and he can hear this, and his van's shaking back and forth.
Suddenly it bolts, moving fast uphill. Then Sarah spots another one, closer, emerging from the tree line and following. Both disappear over the ridge within seconds. It wasn't just the sight of one that shook them. It was the fact that two of these beings were so close, yet so stealthy in this uneven terrain. Their lives changed in that moment. As Rhett said, "You have no choice but to believe."
So he's like, I'm a fair ways away from it. He goes, I'm watching this happen. And then he said, maybe shouldn't repeat exactly what he said, but he goes, then this mother effer.
Another viewer, Ken, recounts waking up in his van while mushroom picking. His vehicle rapidly shakes in the night. Come morning, he watches from a hill as a massive brown figure smashes his van. At first, he thinks it's a bear until it walks away on two legs, calmly down the road. When Ken returns, he finds his front windshield shattered by a 2-foot-wide boulder, now resting between the seats with the van's metal side caved in, as if smashed by another vehicle.
Walks away from his van down the road, and Ken says he watched it walk down the road for 150 to 200 feet straight down the road away from his van.
He couldn't even move the boulder. Bear spray wouldn't help against that, Ken later says. Neither would a gun. 3 encounters, 3 different people. Same reaction, terror mixed with shock. These aren't blurry furballs in the distance. These are close. These are intelligent. These creatures are changing minds, one encounter at a time. Whether you're deep in the woods or listening from your couch, one thing's for sure. Something is out there, and it wants to make its presence known. Not all Sasquatch sightings involve towering, shadowy figures moving through the forest. Sometimes, what you see is small, almost cute. But don't let the size fool you, it's just as chilling. The sighting in this case didn't happen in the dead of night. It wasn't blurred by fog or hidden by trees. This took place in broad daylight, witnessed clearly by someone standing in the perfect spot for an unforgettable encounter.
Never forget the way that it dropped. It dropped in a vertical position with 2 feet towards the ground and 2 arms stretched up towards the sky.
And its arms, when it
Its
got to the
arms
ground,
were
went down.
straight up. Its arms went down as soon as it hit the ground, and it booked right into that.
The witness recalls the moment with crystal clarity. As the ball dropped in a vertical position with 2 feet toward the ground and 2 arms stretched up toward the sky. As soon as it hit the ground, the arms came down, and the creature rushed off into the brush. One clean, flowy movement, like it had done it 100 times before. The witness is sure that it was something out of the ordinary. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't human, and it wasn't an ordinary animal. Sasquatch researchers know that juveniles, if they exist, are more likely to climb trees for better visibility. As Bobo mentions, Bigfoots do that, especially the young ones, as it seems to give them better visibility.
There's no possible way it could have been anything else.
Brooks described seeing a small one jumping out of a tree. Well, Bigfoots will do that, especially young ones. Gives them better visibility, especially if they're following animals like deer.
So, Brooks, you said when it dropped out of the tree, was it 3.5, 4 foot tall?
This sighting fits that exact behavior pattern. The witness describes the creature as roughly 3.5 to 4 feet tall. Cliff steps in for a size comparison while taking the witness's description.
You said that it landed about 2 feet from the tree, right?
Yeah.
So arms straight ahead, just drop and then turn right away and run.
One fluid movement.
Did it go through all this stuff?
As he indicates that this thing would be the size of a 4-year-old child. A very hairy and very fast 4-year-old. So what was a baby Sasquatch doing high up in a tree in the middle of the day?
Is why would a baby Sasquatch be up there, especially in the middle of the day, right? But this tree is really perfectly positioned to observe that large field right there.
Soon, the team discusses the layout of the ground. The tree sits perfectly at the edge of a wide field, with a great viewpoint. The young Sasquatch could have been scanning the area for prey, maybe even tracking deer. That would explain why it jumped with such precision, rushed immediately, and disappeared with ease through dense brush. There are certainly little nooks and crannies it could have escaped through, Cliff notes.
You just saw a little tiny one.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Not many people get to see young ones, especially in broad daylight like that. You're very fortunate.
But I think we're left with no other option here. You saw it run off on 2 legs and it looked like an ape. There's only one suspect with that description. It's a Sasquatch.
That's right.
Well, looks like you guys got more than you bargained for when you moved in here as far as neighbors go, because it looks like you got a Bigfoot kind of living right there.
Yeah.
And once it hit the ground, it ran upright on 2 legs. That single detail eliminates nearly every known North American animal. In the end, there's only one reasonable conclusion, that it was nothing but a Sasquatch. You just saw a little tiny one, Bobo says with a grin. Adorable! But there's a knowing tone behind his words that points to the possibility of something big being nearby, putting stress on the fact that there might be a Bigfoot family living nearby. Small, fast, and spotted in daylight, this wasn't just another blurry tale. It's a rare daylight glimpse into the life of a creature many still call a myth. But this baby Squatch might just be the real deal.
Hey guys, Big Daddy Hoffman, 1911. I'm up in the deer stand. It's December. I'm ready to do some deer hunting.
There's something weird about still woods in winter. The silence feels much heavier, as if it's weighing in on you, waiting for something to break it. For Big Daddy Hoffman 1911, a seasoned hunter filming his time in the deer stand during a December morning in North Carolina's Piedmont region, that silence was broken by something he never expected. He starts the video casually, quietly announcing he's up in the stand, scanning the woods, rifle at the ready, the way he's likely done dozens of times before. There's a stillness to his voice, a calm routine. This is a man who knows the forest, knows the sounds, knows the rhythm of nature. But then, something shifts.
Doesn't look like a deer. I can't tell what it is.
He notices movement in the trees. At first it seems innocent movement of maybe a deer, the kind of movement any hunter is trained to spot. But he hesitates. That uncertainty is quickly swallowed by a sense of unease as the camera rolls on and he catches another glimpse of something tall and dark. It does not look like a deer at all.
What in the world is that thing?
A blood-curdling scream destroys the silence as it blasts through the forest. It's not the sound of a man. It's not the cry of a deer or the growl of a bear. It's something entirely unfamiliar, raw, and powerful. And you can hear it in his voice that this surely isn't acting. He's shaken. His tone rose with disbelief and actual fear. We see the camera becoming unsteady. There's no curiosity, no attempt to investigate, only pure panic. That's not just a man startled by a strange animal. That's someone who just felt their place in the forest shrink in the presence of something beyond explanation. Whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, the audio in this footage is shocking. It's not just the sound, but the instinctive physical response it evokes. You can feel the drop in temperature when that scream hits, like the woods themselves just grew older and darker. What's especially interesting is that this isn't some cryptid channel trying to go viral. This is a firearms-focused outdoorsman, clearly suspicious, just trying to enjoy a morning hunt. He even says in the description, "That's my story and I'm sticking to it," half joking but also throwing it to the critics that it really happened. Whether it was a Sasquatch, an unknown predator, or something else entirely, one thing's certain. It was enough to send a seasoned hunter fleeing from his spot. And sometimes, that's all the proof you need. Tracking Bigfoot is less about constant encounters and more about patience, which can be spanned over years. Trevor, host of Mountain Beast Mysteries, has been at it since 2013, lurking through the Canadian wilderness with a camera in hand. In this episode, he takes us on a reflective journey through the handful of tracks he's found in nearly a decade of exploring. He seems embarrassed as he shows how little he has found, but the few signs he has found, they make you question what you think you know. Trevor comes across a 12-13-inch track in the moss, which seems to be his first potential Sasquatch print.
If this is from a Bigfoot, it's the first track I've ever found. And it's a shame it's in the moss because it'd be nice to try and cast one. But it is definitely an impression.
It's unmistakably shaped like a foot, complete with a heel and slight toe impressions. He puts his sunglasses next to it to measure, and even with such a simple object, the size is quite impressive. But it's also exhausting. Soft forest floors and a lack of plaster make casting impossible on many of his explorations.
Put my glasses there for perspective. There's the end of the heel. I'd say it's double the width of my glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he finds something far stranger. They are tracks in snow, spaced about 3.5 feet apart. He seems shocked, as nobody walks like that, as he notices how far the stride stretches. The snow along a fence line is rubbed off, as if something had passed through recently. These weren't slow animal tracks or signs of a deer. The spacing is bipedal, moving from left, right, and left, straight path. That's not wildlife behavior. That's something walking almost like a human, but not. He wonders aloud, could it be the same creature I put apples out for? The same one I heard knocking? It's a creepy idea, not just evidence, but interaction.
Nobody walks like that. And this is way further.
Yeah. And then it goes down towards the fence, and that's where I put the apples up over there.
I wonder if this trackway, because it goes in that direction, is part of that one.
However, it all becomes more intriguing as a large trail imprint is seen, which is about 2.5 times the length of a handheld camera. There's no sign of toes, and the front is rounded. Could it be a person who slipped and dragged their foot? Possibly, but the size and shape stand out, and Trevor highlights a raised ridge across the middle, which is a feature known in Sasquatch lore as the mid-tarsal break. It's a classic Bigfoot trait. Yet even the skeptic, he doesn't jump to conclusions. What stands out most in Trevor's journey isn't the number of tracks. It is his dedication to sticking to the truth. He's not here to hype every foot-shaped dent in the mud. He's documenting everything, from the plausible to the mundane, with honesty. In the Bigfoot world, that matters, because sometimes all it takes is one good print to change everything. This video begins like any other of Desert Sasquatches with a serene and reflective start. But it doesn't stay that way. As he comes closer to the old hunting cabin, he feels something does not sit right. He hears movement inside. Not just any movement on the floors, not any movement caused by the wind. Something's moving, and no one else lives out there. The place is supposed to be closed down. But then he finds tracks, new ones, fresh ones. And the scariest part was that there were no tracks indicating the exit of the creature. Just a few gummy worms left behind, either a bait or something forgotten behind. There's a footprint partially on a log, and that was it, as if something had been standing there, sneakily looking into the window. Suddenly he finds what he believes are Sasquatch prints that are wide, deep, and spaced far apart. He compares them to his own by stomping next to them, but they are not a match. His boot barely leaves a dent. Whatever made these had weight, and it left in a hurry.
Here. Hard stepping. Hard stepping. Look at the difference in that track than my foot. And then there's nothing, just my tracks. It's like it ran. It took off running from there. Like it was standing on these boards looking in that window.
And then the strange structures begin appearing. A little while later, he finds something or someone looking. It's shadowy and still, and he hears sounds. Nicks, rustling, chest beating. This isn't a lone hiker or some hunter. This feels like someone or something was observing him.
Something's making calls. I can see a form over there.
The forest grows weirder by the minute. We see him stumble across a bone lodged in a tree. How does a bone get there? It's not the only one either. There are piles of bones, scattered, as if something had been feeding, stashing, or warning. Another weird thing is seen as there are hair-filled structures, sticks bent and stacked like a hut, with fur matted into the walls. It appears like a nest. Something had been there recently. Back at the cabin, something had scratched at the walls. Not the innocent claw marks of a raccoon or a curious bear. These were violent, intentional.
And they've been scratching. I don't know why they'd be scratching. Something's scratching on the cabin. It's not like a little scratch, like a mouse or a squirrel or a cat or anything, or even a mountain lion. It's loud.
As though trying to get in or sending a warning. Desert Sasquatch reflects on the stench he's smelled in the past. The scent others claim comes from Sasquatch, which is rotting meat and unwashed fur. He smelled it, but is it from glands like other animals, or just the natural odor of something wild and living outside human civilization? The deeper he goes, he seems to find more questions than answers. Bones, prints, noises, movement. Something is watching. Something is still out there. As he finishes the hike, he whispers, "I just don't go anywhere without my gun anymore. I just don't risk it." When the forest gives you signs this clear, you clear out real fast, 'cause you never know what the forest is hiding. In the quiet edge of what's known as the Bigfoot Mint Patch, something rare took place. A perfect pair of Sasquatch tracks, one right, one left, spaced just 4 feet apart. The researcher pauses over the soft ground, admiring what looks like a deliberate choice. He believes the creature chose to step in the soft mud to let him know they are here. The prints aren't monstrous. In fact, they're smaller than usual, as they are 12 inches long, 5.5 inches wide. A juvenile? A female? Or perhaps the elusive little white Bigfoot that's been whispered about since her earliest encounters. The stride seems modest, just 4 feet, which adds to the curiosity.
This is exciting. And you know what? There's only like a 4-foot stride in between each of these tracks, which is, like I say, they're not very big, right?
This isn't the work of an aggressive alpha male charging through the woods. This is calm, deliberate, like something curious, maybe even playful. Our researcher seems joyful as he notes this is the first time he has gotten the prints of both feet from the same creature. In Bigfoot research, this is like finding a signature. But the moment isn't just about what's underfoot. As he waits for the plaster to set, something else begins to stir around him.
Kind of exciting. The right foot and the left foot. This one I think is a little bit nicer, but you never know until you pull those up, right?
Suddenly, 2 sharp wood knocks from deep in the tree line are heard. He stops speaking, listens, another knock, and then silence. As we wait for the creature to settle down, the researcher seems not to rush. He's not alarmed. He's not surprised. He's been here before, and they know him. He recalls briefly his first encounter in 2019, shown in a flashback clip. A male and female Bigfoot silently watching her from the brush, confused by her talking into a camera.
2019, to my very first video, I had a male and a female. I think they were very, very curious as to what I was doing because I had never come out with a camera before. Not like that. I came out with cameras but never talked to the camera, right?
It was the beginning of something strange, a wordless relationship with whatever was haunting the southern tree line. As the casts dry and the knocks fade, he signs off with a goodbye to the Sasquatches. And with that, the southern tree line holds on to its secrets just a little longer. But this time, it gave a left and a right to remember it by. The snow was vanishing fast. Just days before, it had covered everything in thick, white silence. But now, as winds shifted and ice turned to slush, something was revealed beneath the mess. Near the tree line, while searching for a missing yellow pail blown away in a storm, the property owner stumbled on a set of fresh 14-inch tracks in the snow.
I was walking there thinking maybe the pail might have lodged in under one of those spruce trees, right? Blew into the trees and stayed there. So I'm walking up and down there. looking for the pail, and I come on to something very interesting. That's where we're going to go right now, and I'm going to show you guys what I found. See you in a bit.
With an 18-inch ruler in hand, they measured the prints, 14 inches long, 6 inches wide, and unlike anything else made by man or known animal. Strangely, all prints appeared to be from the right foot only, and not the other one, with the creature seemingly pivoting, pausing, and turning back.
This is 14 by 6. This is new. This is one I haven't seen here yet. And this just showed up in the last couple of days. As you can see, right away it started to form water. And to me, this is looking like a right foot.
Left prints, gone in the melted snow. As other family members arrived for the gathering, they too examined the prints. One track pointed north, and then just a couple of feet away, the same foot pointed south. It was almost as if the creature had come up to the willow tree, stopped, and then turned around and walked back. But why? Why would it pause? What made it retreat?
And I've got a couple of my sisters coming to check out the tracks. Do you have picks on your boots, you guys?
I don't. Any toe prints?
No, but here, almost right here, you can almost see the toe print.
The narrator suggests it may have been watching, or maybe it knew its tracks would be seen and left them anyway, as a sign. The tracks weren't the only sign of presence. That same week, the gifting area became active again. Out went dried cherries, and in return came low, moaning, humming sounds. Not like any human hum of satisfaction. They had heard this before when food was enjoyed. Not apples, not granola, but fruits like crab apples and now dried cherries.
I've had 2 vocalizations now, and I think it's the dried cherries. They're very almost sour, tart, and I've said before, I've tried putting out apples, and they don't touch them. If I put out crab apples, the smaller crab apples, they're sour, tart, right? Very sour and tart. They love them.
Could Bigfoot have a preference for the sour and wild? And was this sound so gentle, so soft? The snow may have melted, but it left behind more than mud. In its place, clues. Signs that Bigfoot is not just surviving the winter, but also interacting, watching, communicating, and maybe, just maybe, leaving tracks on purpose. As the narrator said, with a smile, "It was a good day." For weeks, Barb and Gabby had searched the snowy landscape for signs or any clear track to tell them the Bigfoots had passed through. But what they found instead was a mystery that's shocked researchers and believers alike. Tracks that appear out of nowhere, then stop without explanation. No trail, no exit. Just a single print, sitting in fresh snow powder. Barb recalls stories like these as she's seen them before. And recently, a logger working in a known hotspot called Skookum Flats came in with the same strange tale of one 10-inch footprint.
Pretty squatchy up there, you know, there's a lot of Bigfoot activity that that area is known for. They call it Skookum Flats for a reason. He said it wasn't huge. Another reason they didn't think a whole lot of it. He said it was only about 10 inches long. And I pointed out to him that, well, they don't all start out big. And that was kind of an eye-opener for him, too.
Surrounded by nothing but elk trails and deep, untouched snow. Late one night, while the snow muffled the landscape, Barb heard something strange, something she had not heard before. A haunting sequence of 3 musical notes, repeating over and over. It wasn't close, but it was clear. Not quite human. Not quite something she would understand. She had heard this before, years ago, and it stuck with her. One of those sounds that feels like it belongs to the forest itself.
Kind of sounded like singing. It was like 3 notes that kept going over and over. And at the time, you know, I wasn't sure exactly where the sound was coming from. It wasn't really close. But it was similar to what I recorded out here a few years ago.
Could it be communication? A call? Or maybe even a signal that the watchers of the woods are still near, even if their prints aren't? As Barb and Gabby stood quietly in the snow, camera in hand, a sudden shuffling sound caught their attention. Snow tumbled from limbs, and sound 3-4 heavy footsteps crunched through the trees. Then, a flicker of black movement between two trunks. Barb saw it. Gabby saw it.
Something black moved between a couple of trees back in there. You really can't see anything in this picture. We can see a lot farther back into the trees. You can see Gabby, she's watching pretty intently.
Both locked eyes on the same spot, but just like that, it was gone. Too fast, too subtle. And the camera? Too late. But sometimes you don't need footage to know what you saw. Thank you for stepping into the snow with us, for listening to the knocks, the sounds, and the silence. If you've seen something strange, tracks that don't make sense, sounds and shadows that move on their own, share it. Together, we're piecing together the unknown, one print at a time. Until next time, see you in the trees. Some encounters are easy to dismiss. Others refuse to fade into silence. And then there are those that straddle the line, caught between hoax and truth, between disbelief and a glimpse into something primal. This is the story of one such line, a line blurred by two separate video clips, a common mystery, and one name that won't disappear, Randall Hart. On the surface, it began like many supposed Bigfoot captures do. Flickering footage, a shaking hand, a figure just distant enough to elude clarity. But the details tell a more tangled tale. It started with a short 10-second clip uploaded by a user named Dave Boccia. The figure that appeared on screen wasn't merely blurry, it was beastly, towering. Its proportions were wrong for a man. The arms hung low, unnaturally so. The gait was slow and weighty, but coordinated in a way that didn't mimic human movement. The creature didn't turn to the camera, it didn't posture, it simply walked, with a chilling nonchalance. To see the clip that left seasoned viewers second-guessing their instincts. At first glance, it seemed like another potential win for believers. But beneath the surface, the story darkens. According to the Unexplained with Adam, the same video, or something alarmingly similar, has appeared before. Only this time, it wasn't under the alias Dave Boccia, but rather under the name Randall Hart, a figure long accused of staging cryptid hoaxes. And now, this channel claims Hart is using false identities to repurpose old content, stoke belief, and cloud the waters of genuine research. But then comes the twist. The second clip in question, allegedly featuring Randall Hart's Bigfoot holding a chicken in its massive hand, refuses to be easily dismissed. The same questions emerge. Could it really be a man in costume? The scale is off. The arm length, again, matches no ordinary person. And the motion, the slow, deliberate rise of the creature's shoulders, the flex in its knee joint as it steps, is strangely fluid. To observe what believers argue is too authentic to be dismissed outright. Skeptics cry foul. The repeated appearances of the same style, the same locations, the same camera angle all suggest a single source of manipulation. But believers are not so easily swayed. They argue that even if Randall Hart is the name behind both uploads, this does not necessarily mean the footage is fake. Instead, they suggest a more curious possibility. What if the man known for hoaxes accidentally captured something real? The idea might seem wild, but cryptid history is full of moments where pranksters stumbled into authenticity. And in these two clips, the details don't quite scream costume. There's no visible fabric seam, no stiffness around the knees. The arm swing has weight, momentum, and the creature never reacts like a human playing a part. Watch yourself side-by-side comparison to catch the subtle shift in the creature's posture. Something a performer would almost certainly overplay, not underplay. This, perhaps, is what makes these clips so unsettling. Not their quality, but their restraint. The creature never turns toward the lens, never acknowledges the presence of the camera, and most notably, never offers the kind of exaggerated motion typical of a fake. So could these two clips, from Dave Boccia and Randall Hart, have originated from the same person? Absolutely. The visual language is too similar. The environment, lighting, and even the figure's pacing all echo each other. But does that shared origin automatically prove a hoax? That is where believers draw the line. So we ask you, where does this footage fall? If the same hand is behind both videos, is it a skilled manipulator doubling down, or a conflicted man who just once might have caught the real thing? Some questions may never be fully answered, but in the pursuit of the unexplained, even the whispers of doubt can fuel the fire of belief. Let us know what you think. Do the long arms and fluid motion seem too perfect to fake? Is Randall Hart fooling us again, or did he finally see what others only chase in dreams? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And more importantly, tell us, which cryptid encounter should we investigate next? Is it the Mothman's return, the Texas Goat Man, or something hiding in your own backyard? Some forests speak in whispers, others in silence. But somewhere in the dense backwoods of southern Ontario, the trees hold their breath. Not because of the wind, but because of something watching. And when one man returned to familiar trails in 2023, he found a presence still lingering, hidden not by shadows, but by stillness. This is the ongoing journey of one of Ontario's longest-standing Sasquatch trackers, a record that began in 1996, when early sightings set a lifelong pursuit into motion. Known across the community for raw, unpolished encounters and boots-on-the-ground honesty,
when I first watched it, I was like, oh, ow, that's gotta be a person watching me. And no, it's not a person. Doesn't have eyebrows or anything like that.
his name is whispered in forums and called out in comment sections. But here, he needs no introduction, because here, the forest already knows him. On a calm morning in late spring 2023, he returned to one of his usual haunts. The leaves had come in thick. Growth had swallowed the forest floor whole. From the outside, it looked quiet, uneventful, but the forest has a way of pretending. With a camera in hand, he recorded his walk, as he often does, narrating softly, observing subtle signs, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet days later, his audience saw what he did not.
I'm kind of thinking I was a little further up here. I watched the video and I was like, I know where that is. I'm not sure if this is the spot. Just take my word for it. It's right in here. I was somewhere within 10 feet of this spot when I recorded that.
Watch yourself. Behind a veil of green, something seems to shift. A shadowed face, too symmetrical to be pareidolia, lingers just beyond the leafy curtain. It doesn't move, it doesn't blink, but it watches. Viewers flooded the comments with timestamps, pausing and zooming, drawing outlines around what could only be described as a figure.
It's definitely looking right at me. It has reddish colored hair, beige face. You can see his eye. You can see his eyelids. You can see his eyes.
Tall, upright, and unmistakably humanoid. Not a trick of light, not a swaying branch, something with intention. He returned to the spot, retracing every step. Where he had walked, where he had stood, and where the watcher had been. The foliage was dense. Low-lying undergrowth created a natural screen, difficult to see into, impossible to see out of. And when he found it, the spot, it became clear. Whoever or whatever had been watching stood nearly 2 feet below his elevation. Yet, in the video, its gaze met his. Level and unwavering. That meant only one thing.
Okay, anyway, I'm going to include that video that I was sent by a viewer. And you can just kind of make your own mind up. I think it's pretty persuasive footage.
Observe carefully. The camera's angle aligns perfectly with where the figure's face had been, which means it was tall. Much taller than the average person. And it never made a sound. There were no broken branches, no smell, no prints, no sounds of movement after the fact. That's what makes it stranger, because those who know these forests best know that silence is not the absence of life. It is the presence of something cautious, something that's been watching humans far longer than we've watched it. Despite a season with little overt activity, fewer wood knocks, no recorded howls, and minimal sign, something had still been there. It waited. It timed its appearance so precisely it was almost invisible. Almost. That is the paradox of the Sasquatch. When you're looking, it's not there. When you're unaware, it watches. And in the quiet footage of an ordinary day, its face now stares out from the shadows, frozen in one frame that feels too real to ignore.
It gives me a kind of an uneasy feeling when I see how close I have been to something and not seeing it. And it's obviously watching me.
Witness the moment. He steps into the area where the figure once stood. The foliage parts slightly as he passes through. From that point of view, the terrain explains the concealment. The ground dips just enough to hide something 8 feet tall, unless you were looking for it. If you've ever felt the woods go quiet too quickly, if you've ever sensed eyes where no eyes should be, you may have been watched too. What do you think that face behind the leaves really was? Could it have been a curious animal, or something else altogether? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you've seen something similar in your footage, don't ignore it. Sometimes the most honest encounters are the ones you didn't mean to capture. And if you haven't subscribed yet, follow the search. Because in these forests, the watchers are real, and they don't always wait to be seen.
Yeah, I was already out here once and filmed at the bottom of the ravine thinking that's where it was. So I didn't watch the video. I was like, oh, I know exactly where to look. Gotta get moving. There's a lot of bugs. So check out the video, see what you think. Leave a message, and we'll take it from there.
You ever get that feeling like you're being watched? Not in the city, not in a crowd, but somewhere quiet, isolated, where every sound echoes and the silence feels thick. That's what one man felt deep in the forests of North America. He wasn't out there for anything special, no research, no hunting, just a breath of fresh air, far away from the static of city life. The trees were tall, the forest floor soft with moss. Birds chirped, sunlight filtered gently through the pine branches. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. The man had stopped for a sip of water when something shifted at the edge of his vision. He turned slowly, and that's when he saw it. A figure, large, dark, upright.
It's crazy.
It moved between the trees like it belonged there, not crawling, not hunched, but walking, with long, heavy steps. Its shoulders were massive, arms dangling unnaturally low, swaying slightly as it moved. It was tall, thick, covered head to toe in coarse black hair. But what struck him most wasn't the size. It was the way it moved. There was no panic, no fear. It walked calmly, confidently. Like it knew this place, like it owned it, and maybe like it knew it was being watched. The hiker barely breathed. He raised his phone, hit record. You can see it in the clip. The creature doesn't turn, doesn't speed up. It just keeps walking, straight through dense underbrush, like none of it matters. Almost as if it's leading him or warning him. The man whispered to himself, "This isn't right. I'm not supposed to see this." And maybe he wasn't. For years, legends have whispered about creatures in these woods. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, forest giants. But they always vanish before we get proof. Every photo is blurry. Every video is shaky. Every witness is left with more questions than answers. But what if it's not just one? What if they're out there, many of them, watching us from the shadows, walking the same trails, hearing every twig we step on, smelling us long before we know they're there? Every year, hikers disappear. Campers vanish. Some are found. Most aren't. And the forest never says a word. So next time you're alone in the woods and the wind dies, the birds go quiet, and your gut tells you to turn back. Maybe listen, because whatever's watching you might not be human. It was a quiet ride through the deep woods of Massachusetts. The kind of solo escape most mountain bikers dream about. No crowds, no traffic, just the sound of tires crunching over dirt and the wind moving through trees older than any town nearby. It was 2015, and this rider, armed with a GoPro, was ready to capture his day in the wild. The forest was thick, branches hung low. Sunlight barely pierced through the dense green above. It was peaceful, untouched, the kind of place that hides more than it reveals. Then, it happened. The rider slowed down. He'd seen something. Just off the trail, between the trees, movement, small, quick, but not in a way he could explain. It wasn't a deer, it wasn't a rabbit, it wasn't anything he'd seen on these trails before. It moved differently. He pulled over. The GoPro picked up the tension in his breath, the way the camera began to shake slightly in his hands. His voice dropped to a whisper. And then, a flash. A figure darted between the trunks, covered in hair, low to the ground, upright. It didn't crawl. It didn't hop. It ran, on two legs, like a child running through the woods, but wild. He panned the camera, tried to zoom in, but the thing had already vanished into the undergrowth, moving like it knew the land, knew how to hide, how to disappear before anyone got a clear look. Some might laugh and say it was a baby bear, but when you watch the clip, when you pause it, frame by frame, you see something else. The posture, the proportion, the strange grace in its movement. Something that doesn't add up. And that's what unsettled him the most. Because if it was a baby, where was the mother? For a moment he just stood there. The trail he'd loved for years now felt strange, unfamiliar, like the woods weren't just trees and moss anymore, but something alive, watching, deciding. Massachusetts has always carried its share of wilderness legends, but this was real, caught on camera, brief as it was. So the next time you're alone on a forest trail, breathing in the silence, surrounded by nothing but woods, keep your eyes open, Because if that was a young Sasquatch, then something much bigger is out there too, and it's probably not far behind. British Columbia, the Tantalus Range, remote, jagged, icy. It was July 2nd, 20, a clear summer day in the high Alpine. Wildlife biologist Miles Lamont was hiking near Squamish, Canada, when he noticed something unusual.
We're on top of Tricuni Peak, and pretty sure there's just Sasquatch down there.
Oh my god.
I can't really see it very well. There's this little black dot walking in the middle of the snow, in the middle of nowhere.
High above the valley floor, near 7,000 feet elevation, a tiny black figure moved across a snowy ridge. From that distance, it looked like a speck. But it wasn't still. It was climbing. Fast, upright, deliberate. Lamont caught it on film, puzzled. "If that's a human," he said.
Why would he walk up that way? If that was a human, why would you walk up that ridge or that snow line? Why would you not just go straight down?
Why would they be walking up that ridge? No one hikes uphill into the cold unless they have a reason. And certainly not without gear. No backpacks, no snowshoes, no visible equipment. Just a lone, dark figure moving across deep snow as if the terrain didn't matter. Lamont, an experienced outdoorsman and wildlife biologist, had seen plenty of backcountry travelers.
Good thing we brought beers. We could lure him over here. Dude, that's bizarre.
This wasn't like any of them. His voice in the footage carries a strange mix of curiosity and tension. He even jokes, maybe if we had a few beers we could lure him over. But he's unsettled. This was not quite like any of those, he later said. It was a bit different. The video stirred up waves online. Debates erupted. Was it a person? Or something else?
We're in the middle of nowhere right now. I don't know how high we are, but we're probably close to 7,000 feet. 6,500 maybe.
That's when a man named Peter Tennant, or Ridgewalker Pete, stepped forward. He claimed the figure was him. A solo hiker from White Rock, BC, Pete said he had been in the area that same summer. No pack, no snowshoes, just an emergency locator. He was exploring. Simple, harmless. But then, the timeline unraveled.
But I mean, he's hiking through snow like it's his job. And where the hell is he going? I mean, there's nowhere to go that way.
Pete claimed he was on Tricuni Mountain during the last week of July. Lamont's footage, dated July 2nd, 3 weeks apart, different locations, same range, but not the same day. So if it wasn't Pete, who or what was it? A figure, alone, high in the snow, without gear, moving quickly where few dare to tread. In the deep wilderness of British Columbia, far from roads and watchers, maybe legends walk the ridgelines after all. And sometimes, we catch them on camera.
I don't...
The footage begins without warning. A narrow dirt road stretches deep into Idaho's backcountry. No other vehicles, no distant voices. Just the crunch of tires over gravel, the hum of solitude.
About 6 miles before my final destination, I run upon a Forest Service outpost, and the sign before it is a good sign.
And the creeping sense that something out here is watching. This wasn't just a casual trip. He had studied the region thoroughly, identifying it as a possible Bigfoot habitat due to its isolation and lack of human interference. Meadows, streams, and old-growth forests surrounded the area.
And since I've become a Bigfoot guy, I take an audio recorder And I put it on a recorder out every night whenever I go camping.
Far removed from any main roads or camping traffic. Pani, the goal was clear: find evidence. And he came prepared. He brought an audio recorder, strategically placed it 3 miles into the wilderness, and then returned to camp, hoping to entice something or someone to follow him back. Watch yourself.
Yeah, this stuff's
Tall. Tall as I am. Taller.
In this segment, he sets up his camp near a quiet stream and explains the plan. Record potential sounds and activity overnight while documenting everything on camera. The area is still and heavy with silence, perfect conditions for any large creature to go unnoticed. As evening falls, the forest begins to change.
just to say, hey, this is what I saw. I'm so bummed. So as far as the description goes, seeing it and thinking about it, I remember seeing something similar to it online like 5 or 6 years ago or something.
Light fades quickly, the wind calms, and the atmosphere grows tense. The camper starts a fire, surrounded by towering trees and distant rustles. But what starts as a peaceful night quickly turns into something else. He begins hearing movement from the tree line, not loud but unmistakable. A steady shifting, deliberate and heavy, just out of sight to his left. This was no deer. Watch yourself.
And I grab my memory card, I put my memory card in, I get back out, bring it up, and of course, it's gone. It's not there. Yeah, and I scan everywhere, and this is me scanning everywhere, and I'm shaking. You can see how bad I'm shaking. I am just shaking because this is so crazy, but I mean, I don't see anything.
He grabs his newly purchased night vision goggles, still fresh from the box. In a moment of pure tension, he fumbles with the batteries, hands shaking slightly as the sounds from the trees continue. When he finally gets the goggles powered on, he scans the darkness. And there it was, something tall, standing upright, staring tech. At first it didn't move. Then, slowly, it began to lean.
Okay, this is way lower, but I'm doing live video far away with the video camera, and then I'm also doing a test. Count my steps from here. 1, 2.
Not a sway, a deliberate sideways lean, further than any normal person could go. It straightened up, then leaned again, opposite direction. Back and forth, not rocking, but bending, watching. The figure's proportions and movement didn't align with any known animal. The bending was fluid, but too deep, unnatural. The camper's internal instincts were screaming, "This isn't human," yet his eyes confirmed it was there. Watch yourself.
At night from the night vision camera, and this is the daytime recreation, and it's not exactly the same, but you know, it's pretty close. This leaning tree's there, this leaning tree's there. My recollection is, you know, it was about probably this head branch tall, you know, which is this over here.
Through the night vision lens, he could see the figure's dark outline, faintly illuminated in infrared. It stood motionless between each lean, as if trying to study him without approaching. The behavior matched numerous eyewitness reports describing Bigfoot's so-called swaying behavior. Though in this case, the creature wasn't swaying, but leaning, peering, evaluating.
But it looks a little different during the daytime. A little bit different angle. I might have been taller here to my eyes versus on the tripod here. So I had 2 cameras rolling at the same time. This side is, just what it looks like with your own eyes, the camera not zoomed in.
The encounter lasted long enough to leave a permanent mark on the camper's memory. There was no charge, no sound, no aggressive gesture, just presence. A silent, towering figure moving in a way that defied logic. Was it curiosity that brought the figure so close? Was it following his trail from the recorder site exactly as he'd planned?
Okay, this is where I first go, is the farthest way it probably is. It's probably right there. I go to where that tree's leaning over, and then I come back a little closer. I think I come back too close here. And you can see the difference in both.
Or had he trespassed into territory rarely disturbed, and the creature was simply observing? No answers came that night. But the footage, the reaction, and the sequence of events, recorded and documented, add to a growing body of eerily similar encounters. And so, the mystery deepens. What exactly is watching from the woods? Almost like a juvenile. What's your take? Are these tracks something else? Would you walk barefoot in this cold, muddy place? Drop your thoughts below. Let's figure this out.